Sky left too long in the sun. She is no more than 10, skinny, quiet, eyes full of wonder and questions too big for her world. Her name is Zara. The village she lives in is tiny, tucked between hills and forgotten by most maps. Houses are made of mud and straw, goats wander freely, and nights come fast when the sun dips behind the ridge. Zara's home stands at the very edge. One cracked wall, a roof patched with plastic sheets, and a single oil lamp that flickers more than it burns. Her mother lies on a wooden cot, coughing softly. Her father left 2 years ago to work in the city. Letters stopped coming months ago. Zara doesn't ask anymore. She knows silence can be an answer. Every morning before dawn she walks to the well, balancing a metal pot that's almost as big as her torso. The handle digs into her fingers, but she doesn't stop. Water first, then the day. On her way back, she passes the school, a small white building surrounded by laughter. Through the open window, she watches children reciting lessons, their voices rising and falling like a song. For a moment, she stands there listening. Then she smiles and walks on. At home, there is no breakfast. Sometimes she eats a piece of stale bread a neighbor gives her. Sometimes nothing. Hunger has become part of her, like a shadow she no longer notices. But every night when the village sleeps, Zara lies under the open sky and stares at the stars. She doesn't wish for toys or food. She wishes to learn. She traces letters in the dirt beside her, shapes she doesn't yet understand, and whispers them like prayers. One afternoon, an old man with silver hair and kind eyes stops near her hut. He's the local school teacher, Mr. Rahman. He watches her draw lines in the dust. "What are you writing?" he asks. She looks up shyly. "Words," she says, "but I don't know what they mean." He smiles, takes a small notebook from his pocket and places it in her hands. "Then learn them," he says. "Make them yours." She turns the pages carefully. They smell like dust and rain. That night she holds the notebook close as she falls asleep. It feels heavier than anything she's ever owned, heavier with promise. From then on, every chance she gets, she studies. She copies letters from shop signs, listens to school children reciting poems, asks questions of anyone patient enough to answer. She learns that every word carries power, each one a tiny door that opens somewhere new. Her mother, weak but smiling, says, "Read, my child. Let your mind go where your feet cannot." Time passes. Zara begins to help Mr. Rahman after class, sweeping the floors and cleaning the chalkboards. In return, he lets her sit in the back of the room. She doesn't have a uniform or even shoes, but she has a notebook and a hunger the other children can feel. When she writes her first full sentence, she runs all the way home to show her mother. The words are shaky, uneven, but hers. Her mother cries quietly, holding the paper as if it were gold. Then the rains come. The roof leaks. The little notebook nearly dissolves in the water. Zara spends nights keeping it dry, wrapping it in cloth and whispering to it like it's alive. Sometimes she feels tired, too tired to fight the hunger, too tired to dream. But then she remembers the teacher's voice, "Make them yours." So she keeps going. Months roll into years. She takes her first exam barefoot using a borrowed pencil. When results come, she stands at the top of the list. The teacher posts the paper outside the school, and for the first time the village gathers around her name. Even those who once said girls shouldn't study smile and nod. Her mother's eyes shine brighter than the sun that day, but the joy doesn't last long. Her mother's illness worsens. One night, Zara sits beside her bed holding her hand as the lamp flickers. "Zara," her mother whispers, "promise me something." "Yes, Ami? Promise me you'll keep walking no matter how far it gets." "I promise," Zara says. Her mother smiles faintly and closes her eyes. The next morning, Zara is alone. For a long time, she doesn't cry. She simply works. She cleans houses, fetches water, anything to earn a few coins. At night, she sits outside, staring at the stars, the same ones she once spoke to with her mother. They don't feel as close anymore. Still, she whispers, "I'll keep walking." Eventually, she hears that scholarships are being offered in the nearby city for village students. She applies, sending her test results wrapped in plastic and hope. Weeks pass with no reply. Then one day a letter arrives. She reads it 3 times to be sure. She's been accepted. That evening, she packs a small cloth bag, 2 dresses, the old notebook, and her mother's scarf. The villagers gather as she boards a bus. Some wave, some whisper, some watch silently. The road ahead is long and winding, lined with dust and heat, but Zara's eyes are fixed forward. The city hits her like thunder. Noise, motion, faces everywhere. She has never seen buildings so tall or lights that bright. The scholarship gives her a place in a public school, but not a place to live. For days she sleeps near the bus stand, her bag under her head. She eats whatever she can find. Half a banana, a leftover roti, sometimes nothing. Yet every morning, she washes her face at a public tap and walks to class with her head high. At school, the city kids laugh at her clothes and accent. Some call her village girl, but Zara doesn't fight back. She listens, she learns. She sits in the front row scribbling every word the teacher says. At night, she studies under streetlights when the hostel gate closes. One evening, while doing homework on a park bench, an elderly librarian notices her. "You study out here every night?" he asks. She nods. "The library closes before I finish." He studies her face. "Come tomorrow after hours," he says. "I'll leave the side door open," and he does. Night after night, she sits in a corner of the library, surrounded by books she once could only dream of. The smell of paper and ink becomes her comfort. She reads everything: stories, science, history. Each book feels like a world unfolding just for her. Years move on. Zara finishes school at the top of her class again. A local newspaper writes a short piece about her. Village girl tops city exam. It's a small story printed on the bottom of page 6, but it changes everything. Donations start coming in for her college fund. People who never cared suddenly want to help. She studies education and social work, determined to give back what she's received. Between classes, she tutors street children for free. Sometimes they remind her of herself, thin, shy, hungry. She tells them, "You can be anything." They smile like they almost believe her. In her final year, she's invited to speak at a youth event. She's terrified. When her name is called, she walks to the podium. The lights blinding, the crowd waiting. She takes a breath and begins softly. "I come from a place where dreams are smaller than hunger," she says. "But I learned hunger can feed you too if you let it." She tells them about her mother, her teacher, the nights under the stars, about how words saved her life. The hall is silent. When she finishes, there's a long pause and then applause that shakes the room. Reporters write about her. A video of her speech goes viral online. Scholarships pour in from abroad. One morning, she receives an email from a university in California. Full ride, everything paid. Zara reads it twice, then sits quietly. Her hands shake. The stars she once whispered to now feel close again. That night, she visits her old village. The fields are dry, the well still creaks, but the air feels different. She stands under the banyan tree where she once watched other kids study. Now she's the one leaving. She kneels beside her mother's grave. "Ami," she says softly. "I kept walking." A tear rolls down her cheek, but her smile doesn't fade. The next morning she boards a plane, the first she's ever seen up close. Through the window, she watches her country shrink below the clouds. Her heart beats fast, not from fear, but from awe. When she lands in America, the air smells like rain on asphalt and opportunity. Everything is fast, polished, foreign. But she walks through it all with quiet grace, her old notebook tucked in her bag like a secret. At the university, professors are astonished by her discipline. She speaks little, studies endlessly, and volunteers at literacy programs on weekends. Her accent softens, her confidence grows. She learns to navigate a world that once felt impossible. Yet she never forgets where she came from. Every night she calls the librarian back home, asking how the village children are doing. She sends money when she can, books when she can't. In California, one professor notices her passion for education. "You've seen what learning can do," he tells her. "Maybe you can show the world." Zara smiles. That's the plan. The California sky glows gold at sunset, streaked with pink and silver clouds. Zara stands outside the university library, her notebook in one hand, coffee in the other. She's wearing a second-hand coat slightly too big for her, but it keeps her warm. The air smells of fresh rain and ambition. Around her, students hurry to classes, laughing, planning, dreaming. For the first time, Zara feels like she belongs among them, not as an outsider, but as one of them. Still at night, when the campus goes quiet, she looks at the stars and whispers to her mother the same words she said years ago. "I'm still walking." Her days are long. Classes, research, part-time jobs. She tutors other students in exchange for meals. Her professors notice her work ethic, her sharp questions, her quiet determination. One day, her mentor, Professor Reynolds, stops her after class. "You remind me," he says, "why people come to this country. You came with nothing, and somehow you're teaching all of us something." Zara smiles shyly. "I came with one thing," she says. A promise. The months turn into years. Zara graduates top of her class again. The audience rises as she delivers her valedictorian speech, her voice steady, her accent soft yet strong. "I've learned," she says, "that education doesn't just open doors, it builds them. And sometimes when there is no door, you have to carve one out of stone." After graduation, she's offered jobs in corporations and NGOs. But Zara's heart points elsewhere. She wants to return home, to the village that raised her and the hundreds like it that still wait in silence. She saves money, writes letters, and begins a plan, one bigger than anything she's ever done. Her idea is simple, but powerful. A foundation that builds schools in the poorest regions, trains teachers, and provides free meals for children. She names it the Light Project, because that's what learning gave her. When she tells her professor, he says, "You're taking on a mountain." Zara nods. "Maybe. But I've been climbing all my life." She returns to her country after 6 years abroad. The village greets her with disbelief. The little girl who once carried water from the well now steps out of a car wearing a crisp white shirt and confidence. But her smile is still the same. Humble, warm, real. The first school she builds is near the old banyan tree, where her dream began. She paints its walls herself. The children watch as she draws a sun on the door. "This," she tells them, "is where your mornings begin." Word spreads. Donors from across the world reach out. Journalists visit to film her story. News headlines read, "From orphaned girl to global educator." But Zara doesn't chase fame. She wakes up before dawn, travels to remote villages, talks to parents who fear sending their daughters to school. She tells them her story, of hunger, of loss, of hope, and they listen. Slowly, hearts open. In one small village, she meets a little girl named Asha, sitting outside a school, peeking through the window just as Zara once did. Zara kneels beside her. "Why don't you go in?" she asks. "My clothes are dirty," the girl whispers. Zara smiles, holding out her hand. "Learning doesn't care what you wear. Come." That moment becomes the face of her foundation. A photo of Zara and the little girl holding hands appears on magazine covers around the world. The image captures something raw, hope reborn in the same soil that once buried it. Soon the Light Project expands across borders. Schools rise in drought-stricken villages, refugee camps, and mountain towns. Volunteers come from everywhere, students, teachers, artists, all drawn to her story. Zara travels constantly, often sleeping in small huts or on bus seats just like before. Success hasn't made her soft. It's made her unstoppable. Years later, she's invited to speak at the United Nations in New York. The same girl who once wrote in the dirt now walks through marble halls under bright lights. Her heart pounds, not from fear but from gratitude. She steps up to the podium. Cameras flash. She looks out at the audience, leaders, diplomats, journalists, and takes a breath. "My name is Zara," she begins, "and I come from a place where children learn to live before they learn to read. I'm here because one teacher gave me a notebook. One person believed I could be more. Imagine what happens when a world believes in its children." Her voice trembles slightly, but she doesn't stop. Education is not charity. It's justice. It's the light that turns survivors into leaders. I know because I was one of them. The hall erupts in applause. Some people stand. Others wipe their eyes. The camera pans to her face. Calm, radiant, unshakably real. From that day, Zara becomes a global name. Interviews, documentaries, awards follow. But she never lets them define her. When journalists ask about her success, she always says, "It's not mine. It belongs to every child still waiting to be seen." Despite the fame, she stays grounded. She still writes in her old notebook. Its pages worn thin but filled with dreams. Late at night, she sits by a window in her apartment overlooking the city lights and thinks of her mother. "We made it, Ami," she whispers. "We're still walking." Her foundation grows into a worldwide movement. Millions of children receive education through her programs. She visits schools across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, inspiring young girls who see themselves in her. She listens to them, laughs with them, teaches them how to believe in themselves. One evening, while speaking at a youth summit in Washington, D.C., a reporter asks, "Zara, what drives you after all these years? You've achieved more than most could dream of." She smiles gently. "Hunger," she says. "Not the one in the stomach. The one in the heart. The hunger to make sure no child ever feels forgotten." The crowd falls silent. It's a moment you can feel in your chest. A few months later, she visits her home village again. The dusty road is now paved. The school stands tall, painted bright. Children run around laughing, books clutched to their chests. Old Mr. Rahman, now frail and gray, sits under the banyan tree watching them. When he sees her, he stands smiling. "You did it, child," he says softly. Zara kneels, touching his hand. "No, sir. We did," he laughs quietly. "You were always the light, Zara. I just handed you the match." That evening, she walks through the fields alone. The air smells the same as when she was 10. The earth, the dust, the promise. The stars above seem brighter, closer, like they've been waiting for her return. She looks up and whispers, "Thank you." In the following years, Zara's organization receives the Nobel Peace Prize for its impact on education. When her name is announced, she's sitting quietly in her office, reading a letter from a young girl in Kenya who wrote, "Because of you, I can read my own name." Zara smiles, tears forming in her eyes. At the award ceremony in Oslo, she walks onto the stage dressed in a simple white gown, wearing her mother's scarf around her shoulders. The hall stands in applause as she takes the microphone. "I was once a girl who had nothing," she says, her voice steady. "No food, no home, no future. But I had one thing, belief. I believed the world could be kinder, and now it is." Her speech is broadcast worldwide. Millions watch, inspired by her journey. Some call her a saint, others a miracle, but she knows she's neither. She's just a girl who refused to give up. After the ceremony, she returns home again where her journey began. She walks barefoot along the same dirt road, her heels sinking into the soil that once tore her feet. Children follow her, laughing, calling her name. The sun sets behind her, painting the sky in orange and gold. She stops at her mother's grave and places the medal beside it. "You told me to keep walking," she whispers. "Now the world walks with me." She stays there for a while, listening to the wind move through the fields, the rustle of leaves, the laughter of children in the distance. The air feels warm, full, alive, and then slowly she smiles. In the final moments, the camera pulls back. The fields stretch endlessly.